Hello everyone and welcome to another Bubble Talk. It is already Thursday night and we're getting ready to go into the weekend, so I hope that everyone had a wonderful week. Yes, what are you drinking right now? I know some of you are having Milo with milk and some coffee. Here I'm having some bubble tea, and this is Hojicha milk tea, 0 sugar. Oh, wonderful. This is great. Okay, so I hope you guys are enjoying you're moving into the weekend. I just want to give a couple of shout outs over there. We have Yiling, Yanlan, Ichigo, Grace, and Axum. Thank you for coming in a little bit early and just chatting up a storm inside the room. Let's take a look at the winners from last week's bubble tea from the Philippines and Malaysia. Look at that. We got Ivan over there drinking Taste something from the greens. I don't know. I can't read that part. Ivan over there, and also SQS, right? Yeah, the name I was told to say was SQS. Not really sure what that means, actually, but her name is SQS. She looks like she's really happy, kind of. All right, either way. So they're the two winners, Malaysia and Philippines, and we're going to give some more free bubble tea out today. Also, reminding everyone, you can start writing your questions down right now. Right? If you have any questions, today's about, single and lonely. But, of course, our topic's going to be more going towards loneliness. But if you have any questions, just put it down right now. Anytime during the talk, if you are inspired, if you're like, oh, I got to ask this question, just pop it in right away. And guys, you know what? In these chat rooms, don't feel bad for chatting up a storm during it. If you find something you like in the talk, you could just type it up and say, oh, that was good. Oh, I like that. Because I'm not going to be able to read it, but I'll be reading it after anyways, just to see how the responses are going. So let's get into today's Bubble Talk. And of course, those of you who have seen the advertisement, it is me trying to find a lot of people to go out, but everyone's dating and everyone has girlfriends and boyfriends and stuff, so no one wants to hang out with me. Either way, what we're going to do is sit back, relax. We're going to talk about today is, does single equal loneliness? Okay, so let's begin today's Bubble Talk. All right, so question I'm going to give to everyone, which everyone probably has felt this before. Have you ever been lonely? Have you ever felt the loneliness? And you might wonder, some of you might be wondering to yourself, man, what did I do? Was it me? Is there something wrong with me? Sometimes people don't respond to you, or sometimes you feel like they don't like you. What about if everyone else has a boyfriend and girlfriend except you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so lonely because everyone has a boyfriend, girlfriend, but I don't. Sometimes it's like, have you ever had that before where someone waves and you're like, hey, and then they're waving to someone behind you? It's like, hey, oh, okay, right? And then they're talking to someone else, you're like, oh man, and it kind of makes you feel lonely. Some of the times it's like the advertisement I did, the trailer, right? It's all you calling so many people, but nobody wants to hang out with you. You call your closest people, they don't have time, they don't want to hang out. Then you call the not so close people, and then you keep calling kind of further and further out until you get a little bit more desperate because you really, for some reason, you really, really want to meet people that time. And sometimes we have that feeling of just no one is there for me. Right? Just no one is there. That's the kind of feeling we have. So other people, I would say this is one thing, especially when it comes to people who are always around big crowds. Sometimes people feel lonely even when there's tons of people around them also. And that's why today we want to talk about this single, does it equal lonely? Or what is loneliness? This loneliness becomes a very, very big topic. So first thing I want you guys to understand is this is not uncommon. Okay? You guys have to know right now, you are living in the loneliest generation. And this is specifically for people under 40. The younger you get, the more lonelier you are. Right? All the statistics are showing that almost 1 in 3 people feel some type of loneliness in their life. And what's even crazier is 20%. There are 20% of the people that are constantly and always feeling lonely. Can you get the guys? That's 1 in 5 that are constantly feeling that loneliness all the time. Like I said, the younger you get, the more lonelier you are, right? So when I say 40 and under, that actually means I'm talking about 2 generations. I'm talking about millennials and Generation Z. And they're kind of competing with each other to see who's the more lonelier generation. Now, let me just tell you a couple things about why loneliness is not a good thing. So when you talk about morbidity or like mortality, like dying early. So let's just say that air pollution. If you have a lot of air pollution in your city or your country, you have a 5% more chance. You have 5% more chance of dying early, okay? If you're obese, right? If you're overweight, you have 20% chance of dying early. If you drink heavily, you have a 30% chance, but none of those compared to loneliness. If you are someone who constantly feels lonely, guess what the percentage is for you to die early? It is 45%. It is bigger than obesity and it's bigger than heavy drinking. Loneliness is a bigger contributor to dying early. And especially when people are lonely, what happens? You feel depressed, you get anxiety, a lot of suicidal thoughts. And you know, guys, honestly, I'm talking too much about this and it's starting to make me feel lonely. So we're going to kind of move on to the next section. I don't want you guys to feel lonely either, right? And one thing you have to know is actually lonely is contagious. That's why if you have lonely friends, you have a higher chance of becoming lonely. Isn't that crazy? You have a 52% more chance of becoming lonely if someone around you is lonely all the time too. It's crazy. So the first question I want to give to you guys right now is, why? Why are we lonely? Like fundamentally, okay? So the thing you have to understand is this. Just the fact that people get lonely, it means that we should be with people, right? It's meaning that we are fundamentally social beings. We should be around people, right? That's something, just the fact that many people are getting lonely means that we should be with people. So if I take the first verse right now, like even God in Genesis 2:18 says what? It is not good for the man to be alone, right? Even God recognized that human beings are social animals and we need to be with other people. Right? And if you think it in a very large picture, it even talks about it, the Bible talks about it in a very large picture. That's in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15, 16. And what this talks about, you have to read the whole thing, it's like we are all the body, right? We're all one body with many different parts, not just two, many different parts. And I like the second part here. It says that the whole body is joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love, right? Which means that if you think about it, it's about many people. Right? We are social beings, and we have to realize what that means. We are people that need social interaction. And if you think about this, the way that our brains are wired, being social beings, especially as human beings, is absolutely essential to our survival for thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. Think about this. Are human beings that like strong or that fast, or are there faster animals, stronger animals? Animals, if we got into a fight, even if it was 3-on-1, we'd probably die to a bear, right? We probably would, right? Or if you have a pack of hyenas, if you're just one family, you'd probably all die. Human beings are very weak. We're not that strong. We're not that fast. But the one thing that makes us, that gives us the ability to survive is what? The advantage is communication with each other, thinking and advanced thinking, and doing things together. And this community that we build allows us to survive over time. It allows us to continually multiply, and it allows us to protect each other from these things, where you put the women and children in the middle, and all the men. You have tons of hundreds of men like protecting the entire village, right? And this is what gives us the advantage. We're not that strong, we're not that fast, but just the fact that we're social beings creating families and communities and villages and cities and nations, it's something that we need. We are social beings. This is the way our minds work, and that's why it's something that is absolutely necessary for all of us, right? We need interaction, which means that as a social being, if you lack the social interactions, you get sick. Because you need it, right? So if you think about this, just as you don't have food, you get hungry, you have to eat. Just as you don't have like something, you're thirsty, you don't have any water, you have to drink some water. Because we are social beings, if we don't have social interactions, it causes us to get sick. But this is the way that we're wired. Constant communication and social interaction. So the next thing I want to talk about is this. What is the difference between lonely and being alone? Okay, they're two completely different things. Let's talk about the first one, being alone. Being alone is like a physical thing, right? Being alone is like, for instance, imagine there's no one in this room except me, then I'm alone, right? You go to school, you're the only one that goes to class, you're alone, right? You go to work, no one comes into work except you, you're alone, right? It is no one around you. You know, here's an interesting stat though. In America, 20% of the people say they have no friends. 20%. Can you imagine how crazy that sounds? 1 in 5 people have 0 friends. That's crazy when you think about that, right? But yeah, being alone physically, right, that's alone is a physical thing. So what does it mean to be lonely then? Loneliness is a feeling that comes from your perception, right? It is the perception of your relationships. It's perceived isolation. Even though there are people there, your perception of these relationships makes you feel lonely. You can have family but still feel lonely. You can have people around you but still feel lonely, right? That's why it's so possible to have tons of people around you but still feel lonely. Let me give you examples. Examples like really famous people. Singers, actors, actresses, you know, famous chefs, whatever it is, famous YouTubers, whatever is out there, right? You have tons of people always wanting to meet you all the time. You're always in these large crowds singing to like thousands of people. And yet, even though you're not alone, a lot of these famous people are lonely. They're lonely, right? And on the flip side, think about this. It's also possible to have no one around you, and yet you're not lonely, right? Let me share this interesting verse. This is from a king in the Bible named David in Psalm chapter 23, verse 4. Very, very famous verse. He was alone a lot of the times. He says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. He's talking about God, but honestly, it's not like God is literally next to you, right? But it's that feeling. He knows that, I'm not alone. I have a connection, right? And because of that, even though I'm alone physically, I am not lonely, right? And this is why I want to debunk this first thing is, you can have a boyfriend or girlfriend. You might have a significant other, but you can still be lonely. It doesn't matter. Loneliness is completely different. It's about perception, right? And people have to understand is, if you're lonely, the answer to loneliness is not getting a boyfriend and girlfriend. That's not going to answer, because you can still be lonely with a boyfriend and girlfriend. So we have to get down to what is the fundamental thing we have to think about, right? So let me first, before we get into I'm going to get into the actual things that we can do, or what makes us not lonely, is why is it dangerous to be lonely for all of us in here? Why is it so dangerous? Okay? Like, we already know we're social species, right? So when you become lonely, like, what do you mean? Like, remember, it's a perception, which means that, oh, I don't think anyone likes me. Oh, no one wants to hang out with me. Oh, you know what? Oh, all these people are trying to avoid me. So these are perceptions of your relationships around you, right? So you're looking at these perceptions like, oh my gosh, no one likes me. And what happens is, when you become lonely, you know what kind of the mode your brain gets into? Your brain goes into self-preservation mode. You know what mode that is? It is about survival. Like, what? So what happens if you go into survival mode? Now, the first thing is, a good thing is, because you're going into survival mode, you're a social being, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to want to meet people, which is a good thing, right? It's like, oh, wow, really? That's what happens? Yeah. Right? Haven't you ever had that when you're lonely, you just start texting tons of people, hey, how are, hey, and you send it to like 25,000 people, hey, right? So you're going into this mode where you're trying to reach out and talk to people. But that's the only good part about going into self-preservation survival mode. Because after this, you become defensive, okay? Defensive meaning you're going to become more aware of the things that are happening around you, and you stop thinking about what others are thinking or feeling, but you only think about yourself, because that's what survival mode is. Preserving myself, making sure I'm okay. Yes, I'm reaching out to people, but the hard part is you are actually only thinking about yourself. You become very defensive, and what happens is, because you're more aware, you start looking for danger. Right? You're always looking for danger, trying to figure out what's wrong in the situation, even to the point you will look for things that may not even exist. They don't even exist, but you're so aware of all the things going on, you're actually going to find things that don't exist. You're looking for danger. You're always looking for negative things. And you know what and all these things, you know what it turns into? It means that you will have more negative interactions with people. Because you're in this self-preservation mode, and even though you're reaching out for people, you're still thinking like, oh, why are they saying that? Hey, why did they say this? Oh, why are they looking at me like that? Oh, are they saying that? Oh, what are they saying? Oh my goodness. You know, haven't you ever had that before? And someone says, hey, you look good today. What, I didn't look good yesterday? You've heard that before, right? What are you saying? I normally don't look good? Very, very defensive, and people are like, what the heck is going on, right? When you're just confident, like, hey, wow, your hair looks good today. Are you saying my hair doesn't look good before? Right? And we're like, what? And what happens is, this is when you go into self-preservation mode, right? You're always looking for the next enemy, right? That's what's happening. So what happens is there are perceived dangers even when they don't exist. It's not even there, and you're like, whoa. And all of a sudden, because you're in self-preservation mode, even though you're reaching out to people, you will have a lot of negative interactions with people. One of my favorite verses in the Bible, it says, Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is a wellspring of life, which means that it depends on the condition of your heart, the way you're thinking. Imagine you're in self-preservation mode and you're always defensive. What kind of interactions do you think you're going to have if you're always like, oh, why did you say that? Why are you looking at me like this? Hey, why did you wear those clothes when you're meeting me? Hey, why? It's really crazy. And the crazier part about this is, it is all unconscious. It's not a conscious thing you're trying to do. It's when you become lonely, you switch to self-preservation mode and you get into a place unconsciously, you don't even know you're doing it. And this is why you have to understand yourself and where your mind is going in this way. Let me give you just one warning sign, knowing whether you have loneliness or not. There's warning signs, okay? So, let's say that if you're lonely, okay? If you are lonely, what do you usually do? You look at yourself, right? And you're always thinking, what's wrong with me? What did I do? Oh, why did they look at me? Oh, am I wearing the wrong clothes? Oh, did I say the wrong thing? Usually people who have loneliness are always looking at themselves. Why? Self-preservation mode, right? They're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about what other people are thinking or saying. They're only thinking about themselves. So it's very victimized in, what did I do? What did I do? Oh, did I do this? Oh, did I do this? But interestingly, if you're not lonely, right, and people who are in the right mindset, when something doesn't work, instead of looking at themselves, they look at the approach, they look at the method, right? They're trying to find a new way for it to work, right? So when you're not lonely, you're always thinking about newer and better methods. Oh, what did I do wrong this time? You know, they did this crazy study with mice and human beings, and they say that when mice go through a maze, whenever they make a mistake, they never do it again. They learn from it. And you say, well, human beings, you know what they do? Human beings they just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Tell me that's crazy. Right? How many times have you done a math problem, it doesn't work, and you do the exact same thing over again? And you do it like 20 times. You're like, I don't know why it doesn't work. And they're like, well, if you keep doing it the same way, it's never going to work, right? It's so crazy sometimes. But this is when we know, like, you got to think about this, right? Isaiah chapter 43, this is another favorite verse of mine. In 18 and 19, it says, forget the former things. So the things you did in the past, right? You can't go over it the same thing again. And it says, see, I am doing a new thing. This is even God. God looks at the old things. Yeah, we did it that way before. We're going to do it a new way now, right? And this is where the mindset has to go. The mindset cannot be stuck on, what did I, oh no. No, it's about, hey, how did we do this? Okay, what can we do differently this time? How can we make it better this time? Instead of repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's really crazy because you think about it. If you do the same thing over and over again and you expect a different reaction or a different result, then you're crazy. That's what they say a crazy person is. A crazy person does the same thing over and over again and expects a different result. No. For us to have a healthy mindset, look at the approach and look at the way that you would do it. What's a new way? What's a new method, right? A new way. Forget the old way. Don't do it the old way anymore. Do it a new way. But lonely people, what are they doing? Always looking at themselves. And that's one of the warning signs you have that, oh, maybe I'm a little bit lonely. So here is where we get into 3 healthy types of connections we all need, right? And, you know, I spent most of the time on helping you understand it, but there's 3 things we need to work on, okay? And it's all about connections. Everything is about connections. Like 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 25 and 26, right? So it talks about the body again, right? We're all one body. But read this, it's very interesting. But there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices, okay? It means that we're all connected in some way, right? We need 3 different types of connections in life. The very first connection I want to talk about is a very, very important one. It's called intimate connection. This is not about boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and wife. It's not about like the physical stuff like holding hands or this. It's nothing to do with it. We're talking connections. Intimate connection, you just need one person. One person you can confide in. One person you can really talk to. One person is, and this has nothing to do with boyfriend, girlfriend, nothing, right? This is about having someone to talk to. Because even when you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, I've seen it all the time. They all have best friends that they talk to about their boyfriend. Or they have a best friend they talk to about their girlfriend. And they complain and stuff like that too, right? Yeah, everyone needs that best friend, that person that's not going to judge, the person that is supporting them, and someone that is close to them that they can say everything that they need to say. Everyone needs at least one intimate connection. That's something you need to really, really work on. It is not done by social media. Never. It is done by physical connections, right? Physical meaning face to face, right? That's why even for guys, girls, even, you know, girls when they meet each other, what do? They like hug each other and they hold each other's hands, put their arms around their arms. Those physical things actually matter to us. Guys were not like that. That'd be kind of weird for guys, right? But guys do high fives. Guys are like chest bumps. You know, they do the crazy stuff, right? But guys are like, yeah, high fives, high five. Yeah, we punch each other and stuff like that. We wrestle and stuff. And those are things that are actually necessary for social interaction. Now, the second type of connection we need is not intimate. It is relational connections. What is a relational connections? It is sharing good times with people. Right? Sharing good times with people. What does that mean? It means that when you say if you go for dinner, sometimes you go for dinner, but what does everyone do? Everyone's on their phone. They're not sharing any good times together. They went out to eat. They feel good that they are going to eat or maybe buying food for your friend, but they don't share any good times together, talking about what happened during the day, laughing and enjoying each other's company. That is relational connections that is absolutely necessary. Don't just go there and everyone get on your phones. Don't just go there and don't talk to each other. You have to have relational connections. And the third one is kind of a large group setting, and this is what you call collective connections. What is a collective connection? Collective connection is when everyone in that group has a purpose and a reason that's bigger than themselves that they're joining into, right? For instance, people who volunteer for like Red Cross or for UNICEF or for the UN, it's for something bigger than themselves. And they're part of this group that all have the same goal. And this is a collective connection. You can volunteer. Another big one is church. Going to church, having a religion, having this connection of something bigger. Because people don't go to church for themselves. People go to church because they see a bigger picture, God, right? It's God is out there connecting to this larger God who has a purpose in my life, something great and grand, right? That is a collective connection that we all need, right? Whether it's some social welfare, social helping people out, feeding the poor, but it's something that's bigger than yourself, and we need all 3 of these connections, okay? All 3 of them. It's very important. Intimate, you need that one person. Second one, you need relational, which means with the close friends that you have, you're sharing good times together. And the third one is collective, when you have a large group, all with a goal that's bigger than themselves, right? One way to look at it is like the Olympics. When Malaysia is going against Singapore, or when like Thailand is going against the Philippines, or whatever it is in any sport, because the purpose is bigger, it's for our country, everyone gathers together even if you normally wouldn't do it. And you have a bigger purpose than yourself, right? And that is a collective connection. This last thing I want to tell you guys today is just one thing. All studies and all reports prove one thing is, the more social media you do, the more lonely you get. Which means that limit your social media to lower your loneliness, right? Even though social media connects so many of us together, it is not true connections. It's a false sense of connection, right? Because you're always alone, right? And this is why we have to understand is the most important person is the one that's right in front of you. And that's why this is true. They say even in studies, it shows that if two people are talking with each other and their phones are right in front of each other, they feel like they're not as connected just because the phone is there. Something that they're thinking about more than the person in front of them. So I'm telling you guys, if you want to lower your loneliness, you really have to lower your social media. Use those apps on your phones that tell you how much screen time you're having and limit your screen time. I'm dead serious. It is one of the simplest and easiest ways, okay? So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on today's Bubble Talk about single and lonely. It doesn't mean just because you have people around you means you're not lonely, and it doesn't mean just because you have no one around you doesn't mean that you're not lonely, right? Did that make sense? I think I made sense, right? So those of you joining us for the first time over there in Facebook land, make sure that you click the like, and if you want to hear more of these Bubble Talks, I think we've done like 28 now, 27, 28 of them. We have 20 plus talks on our YouTube channel, Espresso with Sky. We'll put the link in the room. Also, those of you in Espresso with Sky, make sure you click the subscribe button and ring that bell. Ring that notification bell, just slam it, right? Slam it and you'll get notified every time we go live and every time we upload a new video. Also, those of you who want to support this ministry on Patreon, we're going to put the button there. And if you want to support us, go ahead and click that link. And those of you who know, we do have Saturday Bible studies at 1 p.m., but not this Saturday. Just not this Saturday. It'll continue the next week. Small groups, we meet people from all around the world. We have people from Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, from everywhere. You get to meet a lot of people and you get to learn together about these deep things right now too. So, now we're getting to question and answer. So, I hope you guys wrote your questions down, but on top of this, we do have our free bubble tea giveaway too. Okay, so the question will come out. I think everyone knows this answer, even though I don't know it, but everyone else knows this answer for sure. All right, I'm going to give you guys 2 seconds to write your questions down. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So I hope you guys are writing your question. Okay, we got 2 questions so far. Let's go to the first question all the way in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur in KL. This is from Bernice in KL. And she asks, it's really hard to meet people, especially now during the pandemic. Usually we meet people in class, but since it's all online, how would we make connections? Okay? And this is a good question. Why? Because now we're getting into territory we've never been before. And because of these like movement control orders and these lockdowns, people are not able to go out. A lot of schools are closing down. Some are opening them up. But a lot of schools are actually closing down and they're all online. So what happens, we lose that physical connection, right? So there's a couple things that we can do. Like for instance, let's just say there's a group project, right? I know in some areas like Malaysia, group projects, the good thing about it is you can actually still meet physically as long as it's a small group. I know in some areas, right? And you're like, oh wow, yeah, that's true. And I would definitely suggest go out and meet each other. Even though it might feel like a hassle, if you have an opportunity, go and meet each other, right? Nice, comfortable setting, talk with each other, because it's hard for us to make connections if we don't talk. And it's hard for us, even more harder, if we're not literally meeting with each other. There's some countries where you can't, which means what would I suggest? Because you can't physically meet, if there are certain people that you do know, right? Yes, of course, you can meet them not every day, but as much as you can, but have time to talk with them. But one thing I do suggest, because it's really hard to find people to talk to, especially on campus, there are tons of campus activities. And I know many campuses are having talks, many campuses are having these group meets on Zoom or online. And these are all people that want to meet other people also. And I do suggest checking your schools to see what clubs are doing, what other activities there are, right? Because that's one of the best ways to meet people without being awkward, just like going on like, hey, I heard you go to Sunway. I saw it in your profile. You want to be friends? It's kind of weird, right? It's kind of like, that's so weird. Who is this person, right? No, what you want to do is what? Find a place, like a club, right? Find an activity you can go to, right? And interesting thing is, tomorrow I speak online for a club in Monash. and I'm talking about healthy relationships, right? And they invited me to speak, and they gather students to come together, and I'll talk to them about healthy relationships. It'll be a time of question and answer, and it's a place where a lot of people are able to meet each other, even though we can't physically be there. So especially on campus, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for you to join clubs and activities. Look into the announcement board. Find out in your school with your student government or student council, I'm not sure what you call it here, and discuss with them and say, hey, where can I find a place where I can meet other people who are first year, second year, third year, or Christian clubs, or this type of club, or this type of club, or a game club, whatever it is, right? And this is some of the good ways you're able to meet people without being awkward, because everyone is going there for the exact same reason, okay? Thank you, Bernice, for that question up in KL. Really, really good question, because a lot of people are asking about that kind of stuff. Let's go next to Jenny in Singapore. Jenny in Singapore is asking, I don't understand how I can have a boyfriend and still be lonely. Okay, cool. So that's a good question. So how am I still lonely even though I have a boyfriend? Okay, not me, I'm talking about Jenny, right? So how am I still lonely even have a boyfriend? Okay, so then we have to think about this. We're gonna take a look at the opposite first. First, we have to see that it is possible that people who have many people around them can still feel lonely. Why? Loneliness, remember, is not about anything physical or how many people are around you, or just because someone is next to you doesn't mean that you're lonely or not. Remember that loneliness is a perception. It's the way you perceive, right? And one of the problems I've seen when I've counseled a lot of students that have boyfriends and girlfriends but still feel that loneliness is because in their hearts, in their minds, they thought that, oh, because I'm lonely, I need someone there, then I won't be lonely. What does that mean? It means they didn't really understand what loneliness is. They don't understand what it is. And that's why they thought, if I just have someone there, I'm not going to be lonely. But they find out that even though someone's there, they're still lonely, right? Their perception is still like, oh my gosh, if they find out this about me, will they still like me? Or does this person really even like me that much? Remember, it's a perception of what you think of them. Oh, if I don't have a boyfriend, oh, then I'll be lonely. Yes, some people are like that. They think that because there's someone, if that person leaves, I'm going to be lonely when they're already lonely, right? The whole purpose is getting a boyfriend and girlfriend is not the answer to get rid of loneliness. It's not the answer. It's about connections, real connections, right? It is. It's really about connections more than anything else. Do you have that intimate connection where that one person you can talk to? Do you have that intimate connection where you can talk to them and say, oh yeah, that's so true, and you can kind of open up yourself even more? Do you have that? Do you have that relational connection, and do you have that collective connection? It's something that's really important that all of us have to understand, right? Yeah, it is very, very possible. That's why, think about the song, I don't know if you guys know this song from Michael Bublé. It's called Home, right? I'm surrounded by people, like so many people, right? But I just want to go home. Right? I want to go home to the people I'm connected to the most more than anything else, right? So I hope, Jenny, that helps you out, that, yeah, it is very, very possible to be lonely even though you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or someone next to you, okay? So let's move on to question. Next question is Rani. Rani in the Philippines. Question: how can I encourage someone who is always lonely? Okay, so like I said, it's something that you have to actually be very, very weary of, okay? I'm going to be very honest about this, because like I said before, loneliness is very contagious. It's super contagious. Like I said, if you have, amongst your friends, you have someone who's always lonely, you have more than 50% chance of becoming lonely too, even if you're someone who wasn't lonely in the beginning. Tell me that's crazy, right? Which means that encouraging people who are always lonely, which means good, encourage them. But don't encourage them like this. Hey man, you're not lonely. Hey, don't worry, people like you. Nah, right? Because then you're making them think about how lonely they are, right? Just make sure that you encourage them in lots of things in their life, more than just, oh, I'm always here for you, like these types of things, right? Especially if it's someone, when it comes to like you have a collective connection, one way you can help people with a collective connection is having faith. having a church to go to, having a good community, and this thing also having a good collective connection actually makes people less lonely. Actually, there's a stat, it's in America right now. They say that single women are one of the most loneliest people in all of America. It's one of the loneliest groups. However, if they go to church every Sunday, just once a week, I believe it's something like they have like a 30% chance of not being alone. They're 30% less lonely just going to church every Sunday, right? And that's why you're providing a collective connection for them. So don't just like say bring them to church, but you need to connect them. You really need to connect them. Share in the good times. Ask them how their day was, how things are going. Share with them, right? Have that relational connection with them too. But you want to make sure there's a connect. Don't just bring them to church and then just send them home at the end, right? Because there's no real connection there. So Rani, encourage them. Do lots of things with them. But also give them a lot of connections. Like you can be their connection, but give them a collective connection, something bigger, right? And that's why a lot of people, as crazy as that sounds, just going to church once a week, it actually literally helps. Why? It's a collective connection. Okay? Thanks, Rani. Over there in the Philippines, which means we move into Grace from the Philippines. All right, Grace from the Philippines. Question. In Grace, it says, some people get easily attached and even become so dependent on others because of their background. Came from a broken family. Okay, so sometimes they get too clingy. How do you handle friends like that? Okay, so it's good that you recognize when people are too clingy, but it's good that you are also understanding where it comes from, right? We have to understand that, yeah, it's true. It does come from somewhere, and there's a reason why they're like that. Because remember, if we don't understand that, because I think that's a great thing that that Grace, that you understand where this person is coming from, broken family, which means that they are naturally going to be more clingy. For instance, someone grew up without a father will either cling to guys or they'll completely shut them out. And if we don't understand this, it's very hard for us to deal with them too, because we're like, why the heck are they like this? Why are they like this, right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we want to have them to have multiple connections, right? Make sure that they have multiple connections. Of course, there might be more clingy to you, but of course we want to always be able to give them a lot more connections also, that they'll have multiple people to look at, right? And it's really unfortunate that there are these broken families that cause like these psychological hurt, that they do get more clingy. But you have to think of the alternative. Like, what if they cling to someone who's terrible, right? Like, that's one thing. As someone, like for me as a person of faith, I would rather have them cling on to someone of faith who is good first, and slowly get them, for myself, I would get them try to connect more to God, help them out in this way. But on the flip side but what if they cling to someone who doesn't believe? What if they cling to someone who's unhealthy and they have unhealthy habits that makes them start to drink or do all these other bad habits that I think that it wouldn't be healthy for them? If that's the case, honestly, you have to look at it from the large perspective. And for myself, because I'm a man of faith, if I look at the alternative, I would rather have it this way than them going off somewhere else, right? And being with the wrong people, right? And it's something that we have to be very, very, of course, we don't want to just let it come all, like complete clinginess, right? But we have to manage it well with ourselves, how much we can handle. But we also need to make sure there's multiple connections too. Because if there's multiple connections, then they can go to someone else too when you're tired or when you're busy or whatnot. So, yeah, you got to kind of look at the big picture too sometimes, because I know some instances where it was either they cling to people at church or they cling to like a very toxic relationship that's just going to hurt them, okay? So I hope that helps you out, Grace. Let's go into our question, okay? We're going to go to the question of the day. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to pronounce it my best, okay? So this is a Harry Potter quiz. Harry Potter quiz is, who plays Hermione? Granger, forget it, Hermione. I'm just going to call her Hermione. Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter movies. Who is the actress that plays Hermione Granger? Granger in the Harry Potter movies. All right, so I have a number that I picked right here, and once I'm going to put up the number, whoever gets the right answer with this number will get the free bubble tea this week. All right, so keep writing your answers down. There's only one actress that plays whatever it says. Okay, so let's move to the last question of the day. Last question is in Indonesia. This is Tani in Jakarta. Tani in Jakarta says, I have a friend who enjoys... Oh, wait. Let's just see. I have a friend who enjoys being alone. There's the next question. There you go. But lately, it's become more of an isolation, right? What can I do to help this person? Okay. So one of the things that happens, especially when it comes to, I talked a little bit before this about self-preservation mode. When people get really lonely, they reach out, but they have all these negative experiences, and then they go into isolation. Self-isolation, right? And this is not a very good sign, because in their minds, they're probably struggling a lot, and they're going to have anxiety, they're going to have depression, they're going to have a lot of different of these mental, not illnesses, but we said mentally they're going to be not in good shape. And this is why we really have to think about this. Okay, so how can I help someone like this, right? If these people really need contact, I do suggest make sure you contact them, even if it's just by text in the beginning, and slowly get them to come out more and more, or go visit their house. Yeah, go visit their house, go see how they're doing, because sometimes, especially right now in the pandemic time, during the lockdown, yeah, it's there was already issues about loneliness already before the pandemic, and this is just exacerbating it, making it really huge. And this is why I do so. One of the things that a health expert suggests is every day text or call 3 people. Every day, just talk to them, see how they're doing, talk to them, right? Because sometimes people just need that connection, and they feel lonely that they're gonna have a hard time with it anyways, right? So I really hope that find some way to connect with them. If there's someone who likes to play video games, some people like video games, then go play video games online with them first, then go meet up with them, or maybe go to like an internet cafe together and play games together, but finding some way so that they get some physical interaction, right? And it's something that we really have to understand, that what they're going through is real, and we want to, don't think of it as a quick fix. Like, no, I called them 5 times, but they never did anything. No, some people are really, really hurting. So you just got to keep in touch with them. Just text them every day, see how's it going, right? Don't be like intrusive, but you want to be that person who's always checking up on them, right? Making sure they're doing okay, maybe even every 2 days or whatever it is, right? But just know that don't expect everything to change that quickly. It's not going to change that quick. And we have to realize that this is something that we have to really empathize with these people, knowing that they are going through a lot of pain, and they are people that need some help, and we can give it to them slowly and a little bit every day. I suggest you also do some research too, finding good ways to connect with these people. Okay, Tani, thank you so much for that question. I hope that you can help these people, help your friend that is kind of isolating themselves, right? So thank you so much, guys, everyone. Awesome questions today. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Bubble Talk. Who are the winners for today? What number are we today? We are number 4. Who is the winner who has the 4th right answer? And 2 winners. We have Melanie Anmi and Diane Infante, right? So guys, congratulations to Melanie and Diane. Where's Melanie from? I know Diane is from the Philippines. Melanie's from where? Wow, both of them are from the Philippines. Oh, Philippines are blessed this week, right? Congratulations both to Melanie and Diane. I hope you guys enjoy those bubble teas. Make sure you call that or just email us. Just tell us who you are, and we're going to send you over your bubble teas, your free bubble teas. Make sure you take a picture. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining today for today's talk about single loneliness. No, they do not compute, and we have to be those. If you came a little bit late, you're going to have to watch this all over again, okay? Everyone, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again next week. Bye-bye.